Okay, good evening, and welcome to the meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District. Today is Thursday, March 9th, 2023. The time is 7:03. The meeting is taking place in the Pioneer Valley Regional School Library and online via www.facebook/BNC Television and www.PVRSDK12.org. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and can we do a roll call attendance?
Melissa Gary, Bernardston present.
Erin O'Neill, Leiden here.
Nathan Schwartz, Warwick here.
Michelle Druso, Leiden here.
Gretchen Kelton, Bernardston here.
Alan Genovese, Warwick present.
And Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, Bernardston here.
David Young here.
Stephen Martin, Northfield here.
And Raina Dastu, Northfield, present. All right, so starting on our agenda, we have any citizens' comments? I don't see anyone here so in the room, so we'll move on to approval of the minutes for February 9th, 2023. Yes, oh, go ahead, Karen.
Okay. Under number 2, fourth paragraph, I think we're missing a couple of words in the first sentence. There were a number of questions related to the slide on investments. Yes. Right?
Yep,
And that's what I found.
okay. Any other corrections? Yes. Oh. Oh, yeah, that's.
You're right.
I
It
think
goes
that's
1,
the-
2, 13.
Yeah, so we correct that.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe it's supposed to be 3. Items are numbered 1, 2, 13. I think they're probably meant to be 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
No, it just keeps going until 13.
Oh.
No, if you flip the page, it just ends.
Oh.
It's just a formatting.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, all right. So the paragraphs,
The
they're,
paragraphs were unnumbered.
were not numbered, so we need to
Right,
change.
until the very end, where it says 13.
I see,
Right, it's just formatting.
okay.
No
right,
subs,
so we just
yeah,
need to-
no substitute.
Right, right. All right. And,
Okay, I move that we accept these minutes with the small changes.
all right, do I have a second? Michelle, thank you, Michelle. All right, and we'll,
Melissa Gary, yes.
Erin O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Schwartz, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
David Young, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes. And moving on to the minutes from February 15th. Do we have any corrections?
There might be a number 3 missing from that third paragraph on the first page. This is a minor, oh,
I
sorry.
think it's all misnumbered. We've got 1,
Okay.
2, 4, 6, 3, 4,
Oh, dear.
5, 6.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we'll have to reformat the numbers.
I do have a substantive, on page 4, the last page, item C, superintendent's goals. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line, the parentheses. How can we say this? Be compliant with Massachusetts laws, feedback from, it's not just faculty, feedback gathered for administrator evaluations and teacher evaluations. I mean, it's student feedback for teacher evaluations, but it's not just faculty feedback for superintendent evaluations, it's faculty feedback for principal evaluations as well. So faculty feedback for principal evaluations. I'm not sure the law requires it for superintendent evaluations. Could I,
Yeah, I think,
what did we just say?
I think some systems will put in like a 360 degree evaluation. They call it 360 degree.
Yeah, but just this
So
is
you're
in
getting
compliance
feedback,
with
but not-
Massachusetts laws, so I'm trying to remember the exact law. Could I look this up during the meeting?
Clarify that?
Yeah, okay, all right.
Any other corrections?
Just a question. Not a law, but a regulation, right? Because I don't know of a law.
I think it's in the law and translates down to regulation, but I'll look that up
Okay.
right now.
Okay, I will look, sorry.
Oh, I think we want to clarify that,
Oh.
the language around that one before we approve.
So I move
But-
pending that information, we put this on hold
Okay,
until we have that information.
that sounds,
Thank you.
we have a second for that?
Could I bring that back next
Yeah,
meeting and
let's
not
bring
have
that
to
back. Just table
find
it.
that? Thank you. I'm sorry that I didn't have it ready.
Just
Okay.
move to table and
Yeah, so we'll table that one till next time. And do we need to take a vote on that one? or- Parliamentary, no, okay, all right. So I have a request, since Otis is here from BNCTV, I'd like to move the other business up now so that we can have him available for that item to answer questions and provide some information. Can I have a motion to move that item up to next in the agenda?
so moved.
Second.
Thank you. Michelle, all right, you can start the vote.
Melissa, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
I'm looking for the number.
And Nathan? Can you vote on moving the agenda item up?
Yes, Nathan Swartz, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
David Young, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. Great, that's unanimous. Thank you, Otis, for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Didn't want you to have to sit through everything.
I've already done one school committee meeting today, so.
Well, welcome to the site. All right.
Do you want me to- do you wanna- Well, Otis, thanks for being here. I had the chance to meet with Otis this afternoon, which was great because we haven't had so many chances to discuss. And Otis is a well-rounded municipal servant. I'm not sure all of us are aware. You served on the
I
Greenfield.
was on Greenfield City Council for 4 years and Ways and Means.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do and all that Tyler over there does. So this item comes to us, you know, as we shared as an unanticipated item. BNC TV, this is what I've learned, and Otis, please correct me if I get any of this wrong. So Otis and I dug into the bylaws, and we looked into the town agreements with BNC TV, because it is the towns that negotiate agreements with BNC TV. The district has a 20-year-old MOU with BNC TV because they have space here and they use these facilities. So what we discovered, or you knew, I found out, there's no clear language that says, hey, BNC TV is going to set up all these cameras and do all this work for all these meetings for the district. I had not been sufficiently aware of the level of technical complexity required to both film these meetings and host them in a hybrid way so that the Google Meet is seamlessly integrated. And that, Tyler, can you hear me? That is obviously a testament to Tyler's skill, that he makes this look far easier than it is. And as you know from having seen the letter, BNC TV simply cannot sustain that level of support for the committee, hence some discussion that needs to happen. I did check in with Russell this afternoon, or maybe starting yesterday on this topic. So as you know, the exemption allowing for remote participation in public meetings ends on March 31st. If there is no extension, we revert to the full open original meeting law. There is a law that allows for remote participation in meetings. That law was on the books prior to the pandemic. A body would had to have approved that remote participation option. So I have a note to check in with Ann Harding, unless anybody at this table remembers if the school committee previously approved the remote participation law. That remote participation law is much more burdensome. It is not as easy to say, hey, I'm going to be at home for this meeting. There are 5 reasons why one may participate remotely, and the reason for one's remote participation must be stated at the meeting publicly. There's some language about what happens if the meeting runs into technical difficulty. So I hope that helps set a bit of the context. And Otis, maybe you could please fill in all the missing areas.
Yeah, no, I think you really covered the basics. So BNCTV, we just wanted to step in when the pandemic hit and, provide some assistance where we could, because we saw all around towns don't have IT departments. And so we were happy to help there, but it really stretches us. And you've probably seen when I fill in, I can't do it all. And so my commitment, or our commitment first, is to covering the meetings and to live streaming them and to broadcasting them. And so providing tech support and making the remote happen along with the speakers in the room is more than I as a fill-in can do. And it's really asking a lot of Tyler to do it twice a month. And so that's really why we need, as an organization, to pull back from there. And I laid out a couple options if the state does in fact roll back the open meeting law on the 31st. School committee you have options, I think. But anyway, I'm more here to answer questions about the technical, stuff moving forward.
So we would still need a quorum of the school committee in person.
Yeah, if you were to, even if you were to adopt the provision, you need a physical quorum, and then the people who are participating remotely, they really have to either be sick, traveling, they're one of those 5 reasons that Patricia alluded to.
And I believe that's outlined in the open meeting law.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
the provision that the
Yep.
committee would have to adopt. And
So what would you need us to do to make this work?
well, I think the school committee probably either way might have a decision to make, depending on if the law does run out. So if it runs out and you were to adopt that provision, then we would need to work with you to talk about what that looks like exactly, because it would probably mean only 1 or 2 people participating remotely in any meeting, and hopefully it would mean that we would know in advance who those members were. And so if that were the case, we would implement different technology that would just be a video link that would be unique to the participant rather than an open or private Google Meet. And so, we could work with that. It makes the technology a little bit more doable on our end. It's still tough, but we could maybe make it work. The other alternative is having someone from school committee or staff at the school who's kind of responsible for the technology. And that would probably really be what's necessary if the provision is extended. If the state extends it and allows for remote hybrid without really any the way it's been going, then we really would need some assistance or someone to pick up the slack on that.
Would that video option or the video link be similar to what happened pre-pandemic when the director of finance was attending meetings remotely? Do you recall?
Yeah, I actually don't remember how that was. It probably would be different. I mean, I do it in Irving, and it's a proprietary thing that works with our software. So we'd have to be there. But I mean, we're at all the meetings. So yeah, it doesn't require any installation on the user's side. So it's just a link.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions? So David made a comment that both the House and the Senate in Massachusetts have passed bills extending remote meetings, and they're different versions, and they're awaiting reconciliation. So I don't know if that's going to happen before the 31st, or
And the governor will.
and the governor will have to sign it as well.
So if they extend it, what's the implications? Everything is still going to be
The
stressed.
implication is the school needs to find a way to help make it work.
That is, if there are members participating remotely. If everyone's in the room, then it's a straight up BNC TV is filming the room.
Exactly.
Well, and then we have to see what the law says. We have to allow the public.
The older provision was clear that you did not need to allow the public. So
Right.
it would depend on the extension. Yeah.
Yes, and what I'm hearing is they may want the public.
Can you clarify? Do you mean the public being able to participate or ask questions, or the public be able to watch the meeting? Because they'll be able to see the meeting.
Oh, they still will be able to.
Could you use the microphone?
Yes,
Michelle?
yes.
Service that we get from,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, BNC will still
Okay.
stream the meetings for public to be able to view the meetings. That wouldn't change, but it's whether we can have remote participation from members.
I just want to extend a huge thank you, because I see you guys here 7 days a week sometimes. I mean, Tyler's here at basketball games, and we have student announcers, which is amazing. And so whatever we can do to help you, by all means, thank you for coming forward and giving us the heads up ahead of time. But you guys go above and beyond. And I've always felt that we do best when we're in person anyways. And I think that's a commitment that we need to make as members, that if our beloved nonprofit can't support us this way, we all have things that pop up. I was in Dallas for work. I can't make a meeting, but every other meeting I'm here. So I think that continuing discussion to see where the law does bring us, but we are most effective, right, when we're all here in the room.
So we may have a timing issue if the House and Senate don't come up with a compromise in something before March 31st, and we have one more meeting next week.
We're committed through the end of the month.
Thank you for that.
I also want to thank you, and thank you to BNC TV for stepping in to provide these accommodations throughout the pandemic. It's made our job a lot more, I won't say it's been easy, but it has been, we've been able to continue to do our work through the pandemic. And, having the option to meet remotely, I know has been really helpful for a lot of members, and we are grateful.
Yeah, well, thanks. I
for
really
that
appreciate.
service.
I really appreciate that recognition, and really the thanks goes to Tyler because
Yeah, thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, he's here till all hours of the evening, well past whenever any of us leave. So, We really appreciate that. I do also have one question. I know in the past, we did rotate locations, meeting at the elementary schools as well as here at Pioneer. And how would that impact your work if we were to go back to doing that without the remote option? Yeah.
Right. It's difficult. It's definitely difficult. But I mean, I think it's probably an understandable trade-off, that if you were to drop the remote, that at least, I guess I would hope that maybe Bernardston and Northfield could both consider Pioneer home base.
Mm-hmm.
But going to Leverett would certainly make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had said Leiden before.
Leiden, sorry.
That's okay.
You go to a lot of towns, don't you?
Yeah, I actually don't go to Leverett, but
What was the policy or what was the practice? Was it that at least once during a year you'd be at another school, or did it rotate?
I think
Yes, once a year.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
that's something that we can consider as we move forward with these discussions, whether that would make
I
sense.
think we are struggling in Leiden to get people, involved in the schools who aren't parents. Witness that we're short one person, and I had not intended to continue on the school committee, and I am, because we couldn't do with just one. And so I think the more we can make our presence known in Leiden, that might help things. I hope.
And I also want to make a plug for subcommittee meetings.
Yeah.
They can happen in other locations, if that's more convenient for members, and
Yeah.
so we'll be talking more. So sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Otis.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on to our reports, our student reports. Take it away.
Okay, let me.
So this will be on our next agenda? Is that what you're thinking?
I would, we'll
Okay.
be discussing it more.
All right, so here's our report for March 2023.
Sorry.
So just to start off, some district and PVR specific, I guess these are all PVR specific updates. First off, a little sports update. Last night we had spring sports night, so we met with coaches, baseball, track, and softball. So everyone is very excited to start those sports up. And track has 30 participants this year, which is a great number. And we want to say thank you to Jordan and Miss Kinsella for helping get some new uniforms and some other updates too. And then also the basketball team is playing an Elite 8 game tomorrow night here at Pioneer. So if you are around, come check that out. And then here's Matthew's part.
Right. Several students, including us, Stu, we just came back from our school trip to Puerto Rico during February break. We had a great time down there, immersing ourselves in the culture, the language, seeing new things, enjoying the warm weather. Big thanks to Miss Brewster for getting us down there, and also to Cooper for helping her out with fundraisers and paperwork and all of that. It was a really great experience. We all learned a lot and had a really great time.
And there's also some pictures out on the windows out on the wall if you want to check them out after the meeting's over. And then segueing into the Faculty of the Month for the class of 2023 that we vote on. This month we chose Miss Brewster, seeing as she planned the trip to Puerto Rico and many of the seniors attended that trip.
An update on Miss Pullen's trout tank and our worms. The fish have hatched and are currently sitting around on the bottom of the tank absorbing their egg sacs until we can start feeding them. Worms are carrying on. We have started feeding them leftovers from the school cafeteria. So That's good for us. It saves money for students and staff, and it puts the food to use. Later in the year, we're hoping to release the trout into the pond we have on campus after seeing them grow and studying their life cycle.
And now for Bernardston Elementary, I visited on March 7th. So I visited grade 2, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and then I went to kindergarten lunch. So 2nd grade, this is the first time that I had gone to Miss Skelton's class. So I got to watch her do some, they're learning how to form sentences and making sentences work. So they were doing some English work at the time that I entered. And then I also got to see the very cool little fish tank that you see as a picture up there, and then the word wall that she has in her room. And then here's grade 4 and 5. So in the left, you can see some of the signs that are in Miss Muse's class, just talking about their daily routines and some of the things that they do in class. And then in the middle, they had just done these very cool hand aquariums with their, I forget if it was preschool or kindergarten buddies. So they worked on those together and had a lot of fun doing that. And then when I went into Miss Clary's class, they were doing their reading groups. So they have like 3 or 4 students in one group reading a certain book. So they have, I think, 4 or 5 groups. And then they each meet with Miss Clary and go over their reading, which they all were super excited to share with her about. And then Miss Tominski, it's always a great time going in there because she is working on math usually when I go in there. So I love hearing all of the excitement that the students have to learn math, which is definitely something new that I didn't really get to see in my 6th grade math classes because most people were not very excited, but she always has positivity and makes it fun for them to learn. And they're also finishing up a book that they were reading that they were loving a lot. And then positivity and growth mindset. So that was a really big thing that I saw throughout the entire school. So I saw lots of signs about positivity and keeping students excited and growing into the next grade, or in general, just into being good human beings in the world. So they also got to talk with Miss Principal
Schultz?
Miss Schultz about the best awards that she does. So they're best behavior awards. So she goes around and students are nominated for these awards and they get a little card with what they've done. And she said it is a really exciting experience for all the students when they get one of these awards.
Thank you. Right. This morning, actually, I visited NES and was able to see the pre-K classrooms, 1st grade, 3rd grade, and 4th grade. Right. When I visited the pre-K classroom, they were working on dancing all together with the teachers and their friends, singing a song which I cannot quite remember. They were dancing around, singing that, releasing a bit of energy in a safe and fun way. Upon completion of that, they were told to go into their quiet rocks, where they curled into a little ball and stayed quiet until they were tapped on and allowed to go grab their books and read with their friends, or in the case of one child who proudly exclaimed he could not read, attempt to read. It's rather cute. They were also working on building, designing, recognizing patterns through that little toy right there. It's simple, but they're able to see that small parts can go into a whole. Similar with that color wheel, they can see how a bunch of different colors can come together to form different things. It's not pictured up here, but they did have a wall covered in little watercolor paintings of their own design using multiple colors. The 1st grade was working on writing persuasive essays. They were given 2 articles they had to read, one on gasoline and one on telephones, and they had to argue that one or the other was more important to the development of our society.
That was 4th grade. right?
Fourth grade?
Fourth grade was doing
Ah,
gas
my
powered
apologies.
versus, that's
Yes.
okay.
Right.
Want me to go back to first?
Sorry.
Our first graders are something else, let me
Let's
tell
put
you.
notes there. Right. They're writing, first graders are writing their personal narratives where they had to, sorry about that, writing their personal narratives where they had to incorporate a beginning, middle, and end, and work on putting their own feelings and emotions into the story. As you can see, everyone's at different levels, but they're all being given the opportunities and resources to grow at their own pace. They're working on personal space. There was one moment where maybe things were getting a little rowdy, and they were told safe hands, so they were both able to back up, recognize that they were being a little rowdy, and calm down. And they're working on handwriting, writing in the lines. More successful for some, but everyone's working at their own pace. Right. And they're also learning to respect teachers and listening to one another. The teacher had a chime she would ring when it was time to listen. They would all quiet down for the most part and move on to the next task. Right. Third grade. Third grade was working on win time when I came in, or what I need. It was a time for them to work on reading or writing or math, whatever it is they needed to catch up on or needed a little more work on polishing. They were also showing respect towards one another. There was one child who was using a reading telephone, a little device he can put up to his head and speak into it, so he can hear it clearly, but those around him cannot. That way he can read aloud without disturbing his fellow classmates. There were two children reading a book on animal species and how some are actually going extinct during this time, so it was nice seeing them reading and enjoying an article about our present times. Right. They were also learning how to read and recognize maps. They had a map of Northfield available, which they were showing Miss Kinsella where each of them lived. And they also had a cutout of Massachusetts with a "You Are Here" star on there. Right. Yep. Right. In fourth grade, the correct one for the argumentative essays. Like I said, they were given an article on gasoline engines and telephones, and they had to argue which one was more important to our development. So they had to pull specific parts out of the story and explain why these were important for what they were saying. They were also solving problems on their own. There was one child who was writing out words when she couldn't remember how to spell them to see which one looked right. So they're also recognizing patterns in writing at that point. They are also in the midst of their human machine unit, where they're studying the different parts of the body and how they all have pretty similar relations to our own technology today and how they operate. They created a mechanical finger, and they also created a paper model of the eye, demonstrating how it can contract.
And then lastly, the Northfield After School program. So sadly, after this next week, I will not be working there anymore, as I'll be doing track and field. But I will continue to provide some more updates throughout the rest of the year, as I'm going to continue to get pictures from the other activity leaders and site coordinator. So here you can see some of the some more activities that they do. So jewelry making on the bottom with Miss Pekunka, who is a second grade teacher at Northfield. And then some other activities that students were doing. And then currently my last project with them for my Cultures Worldwide class is working on different flags of the different countries in the world. So I just did a project with them where they each drew a different flag from the world, and we put them on a string banner, and I'll show a picture next month. And just learning that as we can all come together, even though we're from different countries, to make a better world.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Cooper and Matt.
May I do a quick anecdote?
Yeah.
This will be my report. I'm going to go on.
Yeah.
So we're in the fourth grade, and they're all showing the little eye thing, talking about the eye, and Mrs. Damaris is cueing them to say stuff, and I'm flagrantly displaying my ignorance. And so these kids say, "Yeah, do you know that black thing? That's a hole in your eye." I'm like, "What? There's a hole in my eye?" Like, like, what's, then they're like, cornea, iris. I'm like, yeah, like rods and cones. And this girl goes, that's not it at all. And proceeded to explain how rods and cones, boy, whippersnapper smart, just whip smart, so knowledgeable, so happy to talk about all, like eager, jumping to share everything that they've learned. So I wasn't able to go on Cooper's visit this week. I'm sorry about that, Cooper, but I was able to join Matthew. And I felt, Matthew, like the vibe was great. Classroom after classroom, the vibe was great. And it's that 2/3 of the way through the year vibe, where some classrooms at the beginning of the year, you think, oh, this is going to be a hard year. This is going to be a hard year. Same kids, 6 months later, they're doing great. They're doing so well. And yeah, so I'm so happy to have the opportunity to go around with you two. Thank you.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add to your superintendent?
This is a long meeting. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So, chair report. I know at the last meeting I made mention of trying to do some agenda setting for the coming year, and there's an agenda item later on. That piece I think is going to have to wait for this other work that we'll be discussing later on in the agenda, because I think the building that year-long agenda will kind of build on what we'll be able to accomplish at these upcoming special meetings, but the task force. So more to come on that. Both boys and girls basketball teams this have had a fabulous season, and it's still going. Both teams made the state championships, and there's a game tomorrow night. The boys team is in the
playing Maynard. It's the round of 8. Get your tickets early. The stands were packed. It was so much fun, and a lot of people at this table were there. So much fun.
Yeah. And yeah, Tuesday's game was a real nail biter. It was a close game. It was a tough win, but they really pulled it off at the last second, almost literally.
Yeah,
literally.
So great. And the last item I just want to put a plug in for. Check your email on a regular basis. We're having some challenges getting the warrants signed in time, so these are really important for us to get those checks out on time. So make sure you keep. And if there are questions or challenges to signing the warrants, please speak up. And yes,
we got 2 on tonight's agenda with tonight's paperwork. It would be just nice if there was a notation saying this one has already gone out for signatures, because then you don't have to scroll through 45 pages to figure that out. And the dates are way at the bottom of the page in a little,
Let me see.
you know, but not on the top, so it's hard to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay?
Did you catch those 2 things? Yeah. Okay.
I think the other thing is if you're having trouble, which I had a couple times doing, you can send an email, right, and say that I approve the warrant
Right.
and with the number, and that will suffice as
Yes.
toward the majority.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. All right. So moving along, our Director of Finance report.
All right, so I prepared some memos, so hopefully that will help us move through this quickly. I have a vested interest in this moving forward tonight. I enjoy being here with you all, but it's my birthday tomorrow. I don't want to turn 42 with you all. So let's try to get it done before midnight. I'm joking. It can take as long as it needs to. But it is my birthday. If people want to prepare anything,
To bring you some cookies.
I have a registry. Each year I do a registry.
For points.
It's at Neiman Marcus now.
Neiman Marcus?
Yeah. It's a joke. So the expenditure report, did anyone have any questions on the expenditure report? So overall, it just summarizes, at this point in time, we're in a good position there. The budgeted amounts seem to be sufficient for the planned expenditures for the remainder of the year. And at the moment, I anticipate a 2.8% remaining balance at the end of the year. Revenue report, any questions? And there again, I do anticipate receiving all of the revenue we budgeted and more in overall. And I highlighted the categories that I thought we would have more revenue than budgeted. Budget transfers. There are quite a few. I was really hoping, and some of them were smaller balances, but really to kind of tie everything out so that for the majority, there wouldn't be negative balances. There are some where I am not addressing them only because I think that it's likely the encumbrances is possibly budgeted higher than we'll actually spend. So we probably ultimately won't have to do anything there. But any questions on the budget transfers? Yes.
Yeah, let's share. It's not a question. It's an observation. It seems as if, at least in this set of transfers, we're transferring from teaching positions or instructional assistants from our people assets to things and services. And I haven't been watching that carefully in the past, but I hope that's not an overall emphasis that we're now taking away from personnel and toward things and services. Just a comment.
Yeah, I think just to respond to that, I think in any school budget, people are the largest budgetary component. So those are the lines, obviously, being relatively large compared to the other things that might have money. And having not prepared the budget, I can't explain all of the anomalous budgeting practices, but I think that, I mean, there are, of course, sometimes positions unfilled, but I think that some of it is just anomalous budgeting. But I to my knowledge, there isn't a focus on creating a change from focusing on people to things. I think that always our people will be what we spend on most. 80% probably in that ballpark. But when something's 80%, obviously, a small under or over budget is, ultimately will provide the resources for the transfers.
Thank you.
Right. So if there's no questions, I guess we can vote. And if there are other questions, happy to entertain them.
So how do you want? I have a question on the motion. If I make the motion, I would like to transfer 132,000. Is that how you want it? Or
I think make a motion to just approve the budget transfers overall.
Oh, okay. We don't have to say
as
the
presented.
amount.
I don't. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think so. As presented, yeah.
Okay. I'd like to move the budget transfers as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Melissa. And any further discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Melissa, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Sorry. Michelle Geruso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
David Young, yes.
Stephen Martin, if I don't vote, will that keep Jordan in the building longer? I vote yes, please.
And
Happy
Raina-
birthday.
Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Good. So the lunch report, there were fewer days of school in February, so there was a small loss. But overall, and this includes all of the accrued summer salaries, there's an estimated or a positive balance at this point of $19,676.38. So school lunch is in good shape. And the next piece of business, potentially more exciting, is the assessments.
Subcommittee reports. I guess.
Subcommittee.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if that was all.
I guess. Sorry. Yeah, I guess we will continue to the subcommittee. I thought
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
All right. Well, since we have it set the agenda, we were going to move on to the town assessments, but we didn't include that in the Director of Finance report.
We didn't include it in the Director of Finance report.
So
it was separated out.
Okay.
I didn't, yeah.
All right. So let's go on to subcommittee reports quickly. And so budget subcommittee has not met. Has buildings and grounds met since the last meeting?
Nope.
And curriculum and personnel has not met since the last meeting. Policy met this evening.
Yep. So policy met this evening. You will be seeing just a little heads up on lots of policies that will be coming your way. Next in April, we're going to be looking at I don't even have it with me, the policy adoption and how we go ahead and adopt policies, and then the student activity accounts, and looking at the maximum balances on that. So we have those that are coming down.
Next week.
Next week, sorry, next week.
Oh,
Next
right.
week, yes. Yes. The other one was April. Mhm.
Great. All right, so moving on to our business items. Jordan, the FY24 budget updated town assessments. Discussion and vote.
Yep. So once again, I prepared a memo regarding the assessments and the changes. The magnitude of the changes isn't extremely large, but for each town, I'll summarize briefly. Bernardston's assessments. Well, actually, I should provide some background as well. So at the February 15th meeting, we didn't have DESI's updated information as the governor's budget hadn't been released. And then I got the exciting information. I was actually traveling with my family. I was in a museum. So I was looking for distractions, to be fair. But unfortunately, I couldn't download. I could download the spreadsheets, but I couldn't actually, select the towns and stuff. So it was, I got reprimanded several times. But I wasn't able to get the information. But now I've been able to sit down at a proper computer and summarize everything. So we have the information, the actual DESI information regarding minimum local contributions. So now these are the assessments with that information included, because the first ones we provided were with DESI guidance on February 15th, but they were not the official numbers that come out with the governor's budget. So the numbers that we're providing tonight are those numbers from the governor's budget. So the changes, the actual numbers, so Bernardston would now have an updated assessment of $3,186,284, which is a reduction by $9,572. And obviously, on a very large magnitude of the original assessments being over $3 million, the good thing is our original estimations, with the help of DESI, were quite close to the final number. So I'm happy that we received that guidance, and it wasn't a huge change, because that would be more difficult to swallow for the towns, I'm sure, regardless of the magnitude. It's good that it was close. Leiden's total assessment now is $876,390, which is also a decrease of $6,076. Northfield's assessment is $4,711,438, which is an increase, which is the exact amount of the decreases of Bernardston, Leiden of $15,648. The total assessments are unchanged, but the allocation is slightly different between the towns. And I think one important piece of information, to help, not just looking at the big numbers, but kind of thinking about the process as well. I know we talked about different numbers throughout the process of assessments, but I think one piece of good news is that all the towns have an assessment increase of less than 5%. Bernardston, 3.48% year over year compared to FY23. Leiden, 4.35%, and Northfield, negative 1.14%. So hopefully those are more manageable numbers than some of the larger numbers we had discussed throughout the budget process. Any questions?
What methodology are we using? I can't remember. Are we doing a 3-year average?
Right. So the statutory methodology. So for the minimum local, you have the minimum local contribution. Then for the total assessments above the minimum local contribution, those are allocated based on the assessment percentages, which are the 5-year average of enrollment.
5-year.
Great. Any other questions? Is someone willing to make the motion as
I can make the motion.
presented?
I love this.
I know.
I will make
great.
all the
We're
motions
working
like
on it.
this. Yeah. I make a motion to amend the adopted fiscal year 2024 Pioneer Valley Regional School District town assessments based upon the governor's budget released on February 23rd, 2023 in the following manner. To fund the adopted budget with the assessment based upon the statutory method to the town of Bernardston for $3,186,284, to the town of Leiden for $876,390, and to the town of Northfield for $4,711,438.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Michelle. Any further discussion? All right, let's take a vote.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
David Young, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously.
Did you want someone to read this for the?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, if someone can read the last part for the record as well, just so that we have it on record that the other aspects didn't change.
Okay, so the other aspects, I'll continue. Additional information to be read after the motion per the memo. All other revenue sources adopted at the February 15th, 2023 school committee meeting will remain the same. The FY24 local operating expenditure budget adopted at the February 15th, 2023 school committee meeting will remain the same. The fiscal year 2024 Pioneer Valley Regional School District local PVRS capital building budget adopted at the February 15th, 2023 capital school committee meeting will also remain the same.
Thank you.
Noted.
All right.
Thank you, Jordan.
Excellent. So moving on to the discussion of the school year calendar for 23-24 school year.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna
Nicely done on that. Really, really nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, let's make this a lot bigger. Okay, so, okay, thank you. All right. And my apologies again that you received this yesterday. I wanted to wait until I had another meeting with the admin team yesterday morning to review a number of the changes before sending this out. So, some background. So, I had proposed, proposed an idea here for moving early release days to Wednesday, combining early release with faculty meetings so that we could have longer stretches of time for professional development. I sent out an initial survey. My bad, I didn't make a big clear button saying, take the survey. We had very few responses. I then sent it with a take the survey. We got 230 something responses. So lesson to self. Okay. So for that idea, let's stick with Fridays. Clear majority of people said, please stick with Fridays. Surprising number of people said, it's fine either way. We can make it work. And there were people for whom Friday is really difficult. So I just want, for the record, folks to know we have a diversity of experiences, family constellations, work opportunities out there. But the clear majority of people said, please stick with Fridays. So, okay, we'll stick with Fridays. What are the goals of the draft calendar you received? Wanted streamline things so that we have improved opportunities for teaching and learning. Some of the feedback, there was a lot of feedback about the number of interruptions to just regular school days, day after day after day. Things happening in the middle of the week that throw schedules off. Want to improve professional learning opportunities. That Friday early release that gives us only 75 minutes is not, I've said it before, is not an optimal length of time for adults to engage in professional learning. I was interested in providing a single time for shortened school days rather than some half days, some what we call early release days, and the weather's getting odder. Let's see if we can end the school year earlier, those 180 required days, the 185 days with that extra 5-day cushion earlier, because look at this year. It's tough. So, wanted to do that. For background also, I have looked at 14 different local districts' calendars. 14. To get a sense. I thought I should scan these and send them to my colleague superintendents, because what the heck, I spent the time pulling them. Might as well share them. They can compare. So what are other people doing? They're doing everything. They're doing everything. Loads of districts have Wednesday early releases. Some of them have Friday early releases. Some of them do a mix of days. They don't have a consistent early release. Some people do an early release almost every Friday. Some people do early releases 2 this month, 1 that month, 1 that month, 2 that month, none that next month. Some places do multiple full-day releases. So there's no consistent pattern in our neighboring districts. I want to make that really clear. There's one local district that I think does no early releases. Not that it doesn't show up on their school district calendar for professional development. So really, there is not a single predominant pattern of what happens. So let me pull this back up. So what have I put together with looking through the 230-something responses, looking through a long email thread of responses from faculty, and in conversations, and then meeting multiple times with admin team. Big changes in this calendar. Instead of having an early release every Friday, this calendar moves to about twice a month for early release. What does that do? It gives us more weeks where there are 5 full days of school. Overall, we gain at least 12 hours of instructional learning time for all students in this calendar. And the early release days that we do have start about an hour earlier than the current early release day. That's how we get to 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours of professional learning time. So fewer Fridays with early release, but an earlier early release. Okay. In addition, I am proposing that we move the November early release, the early PD day, the November Professional Development Day. This year, we tried out holding it on Election Day, which is a Tuesday, because a number of local districts got together and through the Collaborative for Education Services had joint professional development. So loads of our teachers from this building left the district, fantastic for the day, and had all kinds of interesting PD in other places. Elementary folks stayed here. We got feedback that that week was tough because the week this year was a Monday school day, Tuesday day off for professional development, 2 days of school, Friday off for Veterans Day. Okay. So here's the proposal for this year. Have school for 3 days in a row, 6, 7, 8, November 6, 7, 8, 3 days. Take the 9th for in-service, and then everybody's off on Veterans Day. So families get a 4-day weekend, right? So it's a chunk, not that stop-start business. And we're going to have a new director of teaching and learning on site. So while this means that our teachers won't be able to participate in CES opportunities, we have so much good work to do with each other here. I'm confident we can get good professional development organized. Let me pause there for questions and comments. And this is just a discussion tonight. We didn't schedule a vote for you. So we're sharing it here. I'll send this out in a district update tomorrow morning. Questions and comments so far?
So I didn't realize it only takes like 45 minutes to run the secondary run and then be ready for the elementary run.
And I called Kosmeskis to check on the proposed early release times. They're good. Yep.
Is it still possible for an individual who is the sole person in their building who teaches a particular subject to take a professional development day and go to a conference, to a convention?
So teachers have the opportunity to put in for professional development.
Yeah.
We always are going to want to support people, but this would mean that we would not be joining in on the other districts that collaborate on Election Day. So that opportunity wouldn't be taking place.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep going. Is that okay? All right. We have tried to put the early release days, when possible, connected to a long weekend. And this is in response to families, in the survey saying, hey, it's kind of nice to get out. So, for example, October 6th is a Friday early release. That Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day. So where possible, we tried to make that happen. Let's see. I'll talk about October 19th, 20th. That's pink, as our March 21st, 22nd. Okay, this is a change. And it might be that we want to change this one, right? I'm proposing a change, but maybe it's not a good change. Maybe it is. Those are early release days at the elementary schools for parent-teacher conferences. In the teacher contract at the elementary level, we may ask teachers to participate in 4 evening meetings a year. 2 of those may be parent-teacher conferences. The current schedule has teachers doing, has early releases on a Wednesday and a Thursday. And my understanding is that there are teachers who do parent conferences 2 nights versus the contractually required 1 night. So I would want to encourage us to stick as much as possible with the contract language that requires that teachers be on site for only 2 nights per year for conferences versus up to 4 nights per year for conferences. We can talk about that. Happy to have feedback. Other changes. Okay. The district is currently in the 5th year of an annual MOA it has signed with the PVREA for a 184th day of school. Traditionally, what has happened is there are 180 days of school. What are the 4 extra days? 2 days before the beginning of school, an in-service day in the fall, and an in-service day in the spring. I am proposing that this year we not schedule that in-service day in the spring, and instead focus really hard on making sure we have good PD prepared for all of those Friday early releases. I am proposing that the school committee consider not signing that 184th day MOA for next year, and here's why. In that MOA, teachers are a bargain, right? It's negotiated. They leave with students on 2 early release days and 2 half days. The 2 half days are the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and the day before the December break. The 2 half days are the Fridays, the 2 early releases are the Friday before February and April vacation. When the school committee agrees to that MOA, we are releasing teachers from 9.5 hours of work. And in exchange, the school committee gets 6.75 hours of work from teachers because they come in for a single day, which is 6.75 hours of work. So I bring to the committee the idea that that might not be advantageous to the district. We are essentially paying for 9.5 hours and getting 6.75. I'm going to, if I may keep going. So that would mean that on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving break, teachers would not leave with kids if there were no MOA. It means that the week before December break, we could have a full week of school, Monday through Friday. In the PVASP contract, there is a provision for 12-month workers to get the day before Christmas as a holiday. I've spoken with the PVASP, I've spoken with Gretchen Licata. They are open to an MOA for next year where they would move that holiday from a school day, Friday, December 22nd, to Tuesday, December 26th. So instead of needing to close school for a day, we can come to school that day, custodians get their holiday during the vacation week, and that lets us get out a day earlier in the spring. What else is there of note? At the end of the year, and I recognize I'm giving you so much information, at the end of the year, Friday, June 7th, would be an early release day. If there's not a single snow day, Monday, June 10th, would be an early release day, full day of work for everyone, but kids are done that day. If we have 4 snow days, we're still in that week. If we have 5 snow days, we go to the next week. If we have 6 snow days, we're still before Juneteenth. Right? And we're at 6 snow days this year, plus the water days for 2 of our buildings. Let's see, the early release schedule down in the bottom right of your calendars. PVRS on early release days would get out at 12:06. Why 12:06? Because that lets Lucas Correa develop a 40-minute class schedule on early release days. And then elementary would be 12:50, not 12:45, because 12:50 gets us closer to a 45-minute time allowance in the dismissal from this building to the elementaries. So much information. Happy to hear your questions and comments.
I'm sure you've done all the calculations for the 990 academic hours for students, right?
We've done it in the past. We got a razor-thin margin. So this helps us with that.
Okay, thank you.
So that was sort of my question in terms of elementary. It's a little different. Do you have, since you did all this work, do you have how many hours elementary instructional time is, and then how many hours the secondary is?
Yes, I did it, but then I did some slight changes with this, so I don't want to say the numbers out loud because I did some slight changes. What I can say is that this gets us more instructional learning time. We don't lose instructional learning time.
My second question is, so I don't remember, seniors can get out 14 days, or there's so many days before the last day of school. So they're very interested in when's that last day of school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to remember what that number was to back up to see when in May they would get out. Do you remember? Is it?
I don't.
How many days? So there's so many days that they're allowed out, and of course they're always interested when's the last day so we can back it up. And then that drifts a little bit if there's snow days and stuff. So there comes a point where you just have to say, this is when seniors are leaving and this is when graduation is.
I'll look up, I'll
Yeah.
I'll get that information and bring it.
And graduation has historically been like the first week in June.
It would be June 7th next
Yeah.
year. Yep.
Yes.
So I'm just seeing this, for the first time today. So there's two things. So I have two comments, I guess. The first one is any change in the schedule for the district needs to be negotiated with the union. So I think maybe you should.
What, can you say more, Claire?
Yeah, so when you change the physical schedule of the school year, day, week, it's considered a change in working condition, and it needs to be negotiated with the union.
What
That-
change would you be referring to?
A Friday, the Friday full day, half day.
So you would still have the same work hours?
I'm just saying that in order to do that, it needs to be negotiated. It has to be agreed upon by the union. So we have to
We'll
go
take
into.
that. I'm taking note. Thank you.
Yep. I think if you ask Russell about.
We've brought this to our attorney.
So the other thing is the MOU, and an MOU cannot be just dropped. It has to be negotiated. It's part of the contract.
We brought this to our attorney,
Mm-hmm.
and their written legal advice was that the district is under no legal obligation to write a new MOU for next year.
But it's not the district's MOU. The MOU is the teacher's MOU. And it says that the agreement will either be negotiated into the language of the next contract, which would be 3 years from now, or it would be submitted for renewal at the end of the 22-23 school year with the membership agreement, not the school committee.
We'll look at that again. Yep, I sent the existing MOU to our attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I asked her what our or the school committee's legal obligations are. And the written legal advice was that the school committee is under no legal obligation to negotiate another 184th day MOU, but I'm happy to take it back to our attorneys.
I would appreciate it if you
Sure.
did that.
So are you looking for us to let this marinate for a meeting and then come back and talk? Yeah.
Yeah, just a first look.
Yeah.
And it'll come back again.
I will say it had very favorable response from the PVASP.
All right. So moving on to policy review. Policy DD, funding proposals and applications, and proposed revisions.
Do you want to do this, Melissa? Or you want me
Sure.
to?
So last week, or the last meeting that we had distributed policy DD, funding proposals and applications, and proposed revisions. For today, this is the second reading, discussion and vote. The changes, just to remind everyone, are in red. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No.
If,
And this is the same draft that was presented at the
Yep.
last meeting.
Yep, this is the same draft.
No alterations have been made. Any questions?
So I would make a motion to accept policy DD, funding proposals and applications, with the proposed revisions to become policy and have it adopted as of today.
I would like to second that.
Any further discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Melissa Gary, yes?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Gretchen Carlton, yes.
Alan Chives, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
David?
David Young, yes.
Thank you. And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right. And so moving on to our next item is the short-term governance working group. In order to sort of help us do our jobs better and also to answer some recent requests, I would like to propose forming a short-term a working group of members who would help to draft a guidebook for the school committee, which would be a document we could share with prospective members so they can get a sense of what the work of a school committee member is. It would also help us to define what our roles and responsibilities are, and the roles and responsibilities of the subcommittees to make their work more efficient and more useful. And then also to take a look at the current structure of the subcommittees and how, whether they are working for what our current state, and also looking ahead to the Warwick departure, and possibly restructuring those subcommittees. I was hoping Michelle could take the lead, but she's not going to be here on the both dates that we're going to be proposing.
I'm here on the 25th.
You'll be here on the 25th,
Yeah.
but not on the
I'm leaving
18th.
next Tuesday.
So I would ask if there are volunteers who would like to be on this working group, and also if there's someone who could take the lead with leading the meeting on the 18th and the 25th.
So I'm really excited to see this. As probably it's no surprise to the committee members. This has been something that I think we've needed as a committee for a long time, just as much as Michelle says we need goals, you know, for a committee. What are our goals, you know? I've also said, what does it mean, you know, to be a committee member? And I would be happy to do this and volunteer for this and run this working group. I don't know if there's anyone else who'd like to join us.
Well, I'll volunteer for the 25th.
Yeah.
I'm just
Great.
not going to be here.
Yeah.
And I can be
Oh,
here on the
you did.
18th, but not the 25th.
I'm going to be gone both days. Sorry. It looks like a good thing to do. I wish you the best.
That's okay. This is, and this will be the beginning. There's definitely more work to do. I had mentioned having a calendar for the year, and I think from this work, we will be able to build a structure for what are the items that we need to address at certain times of the year throughout the cycle. There are things that come up at regular times throughout the cycle.
And on that note,
Yeah.
I've asked the state superintendent's group for folks to send me copies of school committee calendars that they have, and so we've got maybe a half dozen right now.
So it would allow us to have more of a structure. It would also drive some of the subcommittee work as well. So knowing what is coming up, and we can create hopefully a schedule of regular subcommittee meetings with some structure so that as newer members come on board, it's not as intimidating to think about being a subcommittee chair. Because it's a little bit hard to think about, like, I don't know what the subcommittee does. Well, you have a manual that kind of gives you the framework, and that there is a calendar in place so that you know when those meetings need to occur, and you know what work you need to do at which times of year. So, so I appreciate the volunteers, and we will get to work.
Thank you.
And more to come. So. All right. So the Sixtown Regional Planning Board, and I just want to give a little introduction. So I've been on the Sixtown Planning Board since the beginning, and I joined because you can't make an informed decision without information. So I think it's been hard to get the information out. And so, I just want to share more information. That the task of the Six-Town Planning Board has been to gather information on what a larger district formed by both the Pioneer District and the Gil-Montague District would look like. Their task is to also make a recommendation to the towns once they've gathered some information about that, about whether they think it's a good idea to form a larger new school district. And then the citizens of the 6 towns will then have an opportunity to vote on whether they want to accept that recommendation. I know there's been some questions about what's the school committee's position, and what does the school committee think about the 6-town planning board, and what's the work of the superintendent? How does that fit into that? And I just want to say that Superintendent Kinsella is doing exactly what she was hired to do. She's managing the daily operations of the Pioneer Valley School District and strengthening our finances and helping the district provide a good education to our students. It's her job to engage students, staff, families, and the towns in conversations about our future. Our job as a school committee is to provide support and oversight for the district administration. It wouldn't make sense for us to take a stand on further regionalization, especially since this is 6-town planning board hasn't yet made their recommendation. So, I encourage anyone who's interested in this work to check out the 6-town planning board's website. There's a lot of information about the findings that they've had so far. They're still gathering information. They're looking for feedback on their findings. There are lots of vehicles for being able to share that.
You did a great job. It's like you read my notes. So just to reiterate a couple of things that you said, which is absolutely accurate. So we are still in the, presenting and soliciting feedback. We'll be having some feedback from the students on the 13th of March and on the 21st, where they'll come together and share their thoughts. We'll be meeting with other stakeholders and so forth. But I'm glad you added clarity to, it really wouldn't be fair or reasonable to have this committee right now or the superintendent say we think this is a good idea or we don't think it's a good idea, because we're still looking for information, and the planning board is in no position yet, because of the gathering stage that we're in, to make a recommendation. It's the educational piece seems to be very favorable. We'll be digging into how the assessment pieces will shake out, and so there's a lot more information. The process has gone on longer than we thought, because in our third meeting, COVID hit, and we really wanted to get right out and start talking to groups and getting information, and we had to do that remotely in very small groups. So I think Karen pointed out at one of the meetings that our sample for some of our conclusions are from a small sample size. So we want to go back now and get a lot more information from larger audiences from the various stakeholders. So I want to be clear on that same point that there's not an expectation. I know at a budget hearing, someone had asked the question, where does the school committee stand? You should also be in the same situation, that you're looking for information and providing feedback, and that will all help with the planning board then taking that information. And our plan is then to bring that to the boards of selectmen and share what we've learned and find out what their thoughts are in terms of, do they want to put that on a warrant? Do they want to bring it to the town? What more information do they need? I've been doing this for quite a while, and the members have, and I really appreciate the stick-to-itness that they've shown. But we need to finish our work and make a recommendation. So I'm hoping that we will be able to do that soon. We did hire Mary Broderick to be the facilitator with the groups, and we'll be putting together a report, and we'd like to bring that back and share it with you. Maybe in the form of, getting that in your hands first to look it over, and so that we can have a discussion on it in your comments and feedback when we get that information. But until we have that, it's kind of not realistic to expect some kind of a position.
Great. All right.
I have a quick question. And I may have misheard this or not, but a conversation had come up about the possibility of busing elementary students to each, taking Bernardston-Northfield kids to Gil-Montague schools and seeing those schools and vice versa. Has there been any discussion along that line of field trip, not elementary? Okay, at the high school level?
Yeah. This
Of having children, like current students, go and see.
Correct. So this Monday,
Yeah.
we're having the student council and class officers will be, and I'll be chaperoning, I guess. I'll be riding the bus to travel to Turnus Falls.
Yep.
And they will have so they'll be leaving somewhere around 9:15, and they'll have a quick tour of some of the major facilities, and then going to the library, and Mary Broderick will facilitate there, and then they'll have a working lunch, and then back on the bus and back here, and then on the 21st, Turnus Falls will be coming here, and really repeating that same exercise.
So then that brings me like two questions, I guess. What's the purpose, like educationally, for a field trip for this?
So this is to provide,
and then the second, having the current, I guess, what is the outcome or the goal of taking students out of school to do this?
This is to provide students with a voice to share their thoughts about what kinds of things they would like to see if the districts were to form a new school district.
But you
So
had
it's
done
giving
that
them a
by
voice.
meeting with them already.
No.
Oh, I thought you've already met with a group of students for their feedback in person.
No. What I did was
Yes.
had a quick meeting with students to give them some of the students on the council to give them a heads up on this meeting that we would have jointly, and there'd be a short presentation, and then we'd be soliciting their feedback. My meeting with them was probably less than 20 minutes, if that.
It was about 35, 40, yeah.
No, that's okay. I was just curious about the how we determine what field trips are, what they're for, use of time. That's my question.
Well, that's why it was brought up at several meetings what our plan was, what we'd be doing, and so everything is in place for that. What was interesting is in that very short amount of time, I had maybe about 5 minutes or so toward the end of just presenting and answering some questions. I had asked, did they have any initial thoughts? And I was really impressed with, in that very short time, they came up with some things that really needed more thought.
Oh yeah, you share. Yeah.
So that was cool.
That's why
that was really cool. So that's what we're looking
done.
for, Melissa. We're looking for an opportunity for that to occur.
School committee has policy around field trips.
Right.
I signed off on this field trip because I felt like there was so much engagement with the 6-town board that it could be perceived as obstructionist if I didn't sign off on this field trip. So I think there is value to the field trip, and I had a lovely conversation today with Superintendent Beck of Gil-Montague, and he's invited me to join the trip. So I will be in Gil-Montague for the trip. I'll be there for the whole time. He and I have planned a conversation afterwards, and I will certainly be inviting him to come up here and accompany his students when they visit. So I've signed off on this because I feel like it does meet the criteria in my estimation.
And I think another value, and thank you for that. I'm glad you're doing that with Superintendent Beck. I think one of the things that we can all benefit from is, regardless of what eventually happens, the information that we get from students
Mhm.
will have value in the work that the superintendent's doing here in terms of looking at,
Absolutely, yeah.
what opportunities. So we'll all benefit from hearing their perspective.
And the cost is funded by the Six-Town Regional Board for the
It-
busing costs?
Everything is funded by the grant
The grant.
that we were able to get from the Department of Revenue.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, student enrollment update.
You have the student enrollment. Bye. Have a good rest of the evening. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
No overall change in student enrollment from the prior month.
Excellent. All right. So we'll now move on to executive session. I will entertain a motion to move into executive session.
I'll make a motion. I can read.
Yeah, I know,
I
exactly.
was just like, what do we do?
I make a motion to go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, acting principal, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with PVREA teachers if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, to comply with or to act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant in aid requirements. Open meeting law, GLC 38, subsection 22F, executive session minutes, the dates of 6/9/22, 7/14/22, 7/27/22, 8/18/22, 10/13/2022, 10/20/2022, 11/17/2022, and then return to open session for a potential vote.
Second.
Thank you, Nathan.
And good job, Melissa.
Yeah, right? That was a lot. We've never had that many.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
David Young, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. All right. So we shall. Great, so we're back in open session, and so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding, Kathy's first, by and between the Pioneer Valley Regional School District and the PVREA. Was that one also for?
For Claire Brennan. to
Oh, okay,
correct
for
credit.
Claire Brennan for credit recovery for the school year 22-23.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Let's go ahead and vote.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
You still there, Steve?
Stephen Martin, yes.
Great, thanks. And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously.
This is PVREA club stipends.
Okay. And then I'll entertain a motion to approve the MOU by and between the Pioneer Valley Regional School Committee and the Pioneer Valley Regional Educators Association, PVREA, for club stipends for the 22-23 school year.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Thank you. All right.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously.
Contract addendum for Kathy Hawkins Harrison as acting principal.
And this is a contract addendum for Kathy Hawkins Harrison as acting principal. So it's an addendum to the employment agreement between the Pioneer Valley Regional School District and Catherine Hawkins Harrison.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. All right.
And you don't have to do the executive session. That's,
Nope.
okay.
We are moving on to personnel staff changes list.
It is in the back of your packets. There were no new hires. There is one instructional assistant at BES who left.
Just on that, is there any update on the principal search for the high school?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. We held a search orientation for the 3 search committees. Multiple people in this room. Melissa was there. Jordan was there. Anybody else? No.
I think I'm the only.
Who?
I was just saying, I think I'm the only one.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, thank you. Great. So 3 great search committees, all kinds of applicants. We went through our orientation and everybody received their application packets. Each committee will meet for one afternoon next week to review applications and identify candidates for interviews.
All right. Any other
Question.
updates?
Is that
Yes.
for the next year?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Great. Our next meeting is Thursday, March 16th, here at 7 p.m. Any other items that we've overlooked? All right. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
In harmony now?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Nathan?
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. And in case Ann is listening, I guess we'll count that as Nathan moved it and Alan seconded.